The single most awful sound in the universe is the echo of your own family's laughter directed at you. And that's what echoed in my ears at my brother's engagement dinner. My mother, my father, and my brother Leo. All three of them, their faces lit up, enjoying the spectacle. The star of this little show was my brother's fiancée, Chloe Sterling. "Who even wants to be an accountant?" she'd said, her eyes locked on mine. "It's just so dull." The wave of laughter washed over me from across the table. I was well acquainted with my role as the invisible one, the reliable one. I tried to focus on my chicken, but Chloe hadn't finished her performance. "It's actually adorable that you think your little spreadsheet project is a real company," she added with a smirk. More laughter followed. I carefully placed my fork on the plate. The faint clink of metal against ceramic sliced through the noise. "You're talking about Veritas," I stated, my voice low but steady. "Your firm is attempting to purchase it." Chloe just laughed again, a dismissive, airy sound. "We are, for a handful of pennies." "No," I said, meeting her gaze directly. "You can't buy it." "And why is that, Amelia?" she challenged. "Because," I replied softly, "I own it." The laughter died. It just choked in their throats, suspended mid-breath. My father's smile froze on his face. My brother just stared, his mouth slightly agape. That was the night the war truly began. But before we get into all of that, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment to let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. My family was a production, and our lives were the stage play. My father, Robert, was the director, obsessed with appearances. My mother, Eleanor, was the producer, curating our public image. My brother, Leo, was the undeniable star. And me? I was the set dressing. The quiet painted tree in the corner of the stage, a necessary part of the scenery, but never the focus. This truth never felt more real than on the drive home from that disastrous dinner. The silence inside the car was a physical weight, a terrible, dense quiet that seemed to press in on my eardrums. Leo was behind the wheel of his brand new luxury coupe. I was, as usual, in the back seat. My parents sat up front. My mother just stared out her window at the passing darkness. My father was clutching the handle above his door, his knuckles stark white. Finally, my mother broke the silence. Her voice was taut with anger. "Well, Amelia, you certainly made an impression." She didn't even bother turning to look at me, addressing my reflection in the glass instead. "She insulted me, Mom," I said, my own voice barely a whisper. "She was joking," my mother snapped back. "It was just a bit of friendly banter. You took it far too seriously. You made everyone feel awkward. Chloe's parents were sitting right there." "She called my company a spreadsheet project," I repeated. "You need to learn how to take a joke, Amelia," my father interjected, his voice hard as stone. "You embarrassed your brother. You embarrassed us. You made Leo and his fiancée look like fools." "She made herself look foolish," I whispered to myself. "What was that?" my father demanded, his head whipping around. "Nothing," I said. Then Leo finally spoke. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, and his eyes were ice cold. "You have no idea what you just did, Ames. You just had to have your moment, didn't you? You couldn't just let me have one night." "Your night?" I thought. "The night where your fiancé calls me boring and our entire family laughs?" But I didn't say it out loud. I just watched the city lights streak past the window. This was my family. They weren't angry about the money. They couldn't even comprehend the money yet. They were furious because I had broken character. I had stepped out of my designated role. I was supposed to be the dependable one, the practical one. In my family's dictionary, practical was a synonym for failure. I remember when I landed my first real job at a prestigious accounting firm. I was so proud. I had full benefits, a great starting salary. My parents decided to throw a dinner party. For Leo. Leo had just received a promotion. It was a lateral move into a different department, one that didn't even include a pay raise, but it came with a fancy new title, Associate Creative Lead, or something equally flashy. During the dinner, my father put his arm around Leo's shoulders. "This is my son," he announced to the room. "He's the creative mind. He's going to change the world." My mother beamed. He gets it from his father, a true visionary. One of my father's business partners turned to me. "And what about you, Amelia? What are you up to these days?" "I'm a forensic accountant," I said. "I just passed my final certification exam." The man seemed genuinely impressed. "Forensic? That sounds serious, like for the FBI?" "Sort of," I began. "I trace financial fraud within large corporations. I find money that's gone missing." Before I could elaborate, my mother cut in. "Oh, it's a very stable career," she said with a strained little smile. "Amelia is our practical one. Thank goodness someone in the family is." Everyone shared a polite laugh. The conversation shifted right back to Leo. I was practical. I was stable. I was the backdrop. I was the one they called when their tax forms were too complicated. I was the one who had to help my father rebalance his 401k portfolio. I was the one who had to explain to Leo, for the 10th time, why he couldn't write off his entire trip to Bali as a business expense. They depended on my stability. They used my intelligence, but they never actually saw me. They only saw status, the country club memberships, the luxury cars, the perfectly curated social media feeds. My mother's online profile was her full-time occupation. Photos of her prize-winning roses, photos of her at charity luncheons, photos of my father on his sailboat, and an endless, scrolling gallery of Leo. Leo accepting some marketing award, Leo and Chloe at a black tie event, Leo closing a major deal. If you scrolled through my mother's social media, you'd be forgiven for thinking she only had one child. I was a ghost. Occasionally, I'd appear in the blurry background of a Thanksgiving photo, slightly out of focus. My father was obsessed with the idea of power. He was a senior partner at a respectable but unremarkable law firm. He was always name-dropping. "I was on the course with Judge Miller today," he would say. "The CEO of Braxton Industries is a member of our club. A very powerful man," he'd boast. To him, my job was a source of mild embarrassment. It was just numbers. It was quiet work. It was spreadsheets. "There's no real power in that, Amelia," he told me once. "You're just checking other people's work. You're not creating anything." He couldn't have been more wrong. I was creating something far bigger than he could ever comprehend. But my family didn't want a creator. They didn't want a genius. They didn't want a millionaire. They wanted boring Amelia. They wanted the quiet daughter who made them look good by being so unremarkable in comparison. The dinner was a catastrophe for them, not because Chloe had been cruel, but because I had refused to be small. When we finally arrived home, my mother turned to me at the front door. "You need to call Chloe and apologize," she stated. "I will not," I said. "Amelia," my father warned. "I'm going to bed," I announced, and walked up the stairs, leaving them whispering angrily in the foyer. "She's so difficult." "I don't know what's gotten into her. It's that tedious job of hers." I shut my bedroom door and sat on the edge of my bed. I was 28 years old, living in my childhood bedroom, and I had $8.5 million sitting in a bank account that my parents had no idea existed. I was the boring one. I was the dependable one, and I was the only person in that entire house who held any real power. And for that, They hated me. For 4 years, my family believed I was a recluse. They saw me as the sad, quiet daughter, the one who spent her Friday nights at home, the one who didn't date, the one who did nothing but work. "You need to get out more, Amelia," my mother would say, her voice dripping with pity. "It's not healthy to just sit in your room all the time." "I'm fine, Mom. I'm just tired." "You're always tired, dear." She was right. I was perpetually exhausted, but I wasn't watching old movies. I wasn't reading books. I was building Veritas. It all began at my old job. I was a junior auditor at a big soulless firm. I was put on a massive case involving a logistics company. I spent months in a cramped, windowless room poring over their vendor payment records. Everyone else on the team insisted the books were clean. But I had a feeling, a little itch in the back of my mind, a pattern I couldn't quite grasp. The numbers were almost too clean. The costs were too consistent. So I started digging, on my own time. At night, I taught myself how to code. I pulled all of their financial data into a program I was building from the ground up. I wrote an algorithm, a simple one at first. It was designed to search for anomalies and patterns that a human auditor might overlook. On a Tuesday night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., I ran the code. My monitor screen lit up with red flags. I'd found it. A ghost vendor, a shell corporation registered in Delaware. The logistics company was making massive regular payments to this ghost vendor for non-existent services. The shell corporation was owned by the CFO's brother-in-law. They were siphoning off nearly 30% of the company's profits, millions of dollars a year. I brought my findings to my direct supervisor. He was baffled. "How did you find this? We all checked those books." "The program found it," I said. "He told me to take the rest of the day off." The next morning, the firm's partners summoned me to the main boardroom. I was sure I was in trouble. Instead, they told me I had saved the firm from a major lawsuit. They called me a genius, and then they took my code, absorbed it into the firm's proprietary software suite, and gave me a $2,500 bonus. They had stolen my creation. I handed in my resignation 2 weeks later. I moved back home. My parents were mortified. "You're quitting your stable job with benefits?" my father yelled. "You're just going to move back into your childhood room?" my mother cried. "What are we going to tell people?" "Tell them I'm taking a sabbatical," I said. "This is embarrassing, Amelia," Leo chimed in, his face a mask of disgust. "I'm bringing Chloe over next week. Please try to—" "I don't know, look productive." I didn't care. I had my severance check. I had my righteous anger, and I had my brain. For the next 4 years, I lived a double life. By day, I was boring Amelia. I ate dinner with my family. I listened to my father drone on about his golf game. I listened to my mother plan charity galas. I listened to Leo boast about his latest branding strategy. I nodded. I smiled. I said, "That's nice." But by night, I was building my fortress. I would lock my bedroom door. I bought 3 high-end computers. My desk was an array of 4 glowing monitors. I filled legal pads with lines of code. I taught myself advanced Python. I studied AI frameworks and machine learning models. I took that simple algorithm I had built at my old job and transformed it into a monster. Veritas wasn't just a program anymore. It was an intelligence. You could feed it a company's entire financial history. Every email, every invoice, every wire transfer, every internal text message. In a matter of seconds, it would find the lie. It found ghost employees on payroll. It found padded expense reports. It found hidden offshore accounts. It found conflicts of interest. It was elegant. It was perfect. And it was all mine. I kept it a complete secret for 2 primary reasons. First, I knew my old firm would eventually try to sue me. They'd claim my code was based on the work I did for them. I had to remain silent, invisible, until my position was unassailable. Second, I knew my own family. If I had told them, they would have inadvertently destroyed it. My father would have tried to help by bringing in his golf buddies as investors, who would have demanded a controlling share and told me how to make it more marketable. My mother would have told everyone she knew. She would have bragged about it at the country club, and the wrong people would have gotten wind of it. And Leo would have been the worst of all. He would have tried to claim credit. He'd have called himself the visionary, the ideas guy. He would have demanded the title of CEO and would have run the entire operation into the ground within 6 months. So I said nothing. My silence was my shield. My boring life was my camouflage. While they were attending parties, I was coding. While they were on vacation in the Caribbean, I was debugging my AI. While they were laughing at me for being so dependable, I was building a weapon. A month before the engagement dinner, I received an email. It was from one of the largest software conglomerates in the world, a titan in the security and finance sector. They had heard a whisper, a rumor about a new, impossibly powerful auditing tool. We set up a video call. It was just me, in my childhood bedroom, and 6 executives in a sleek Manhattan boardroom. They were skeptical. They looked at me like I was a kid playing with a toy. "So, Ms. Bishop," the lead negotiator began, "let's see what you've got." I shared my screen and ran a demo. I used a public data set from a company that had gone bankrupt due to massive internal fraud. I ran Veritas. The analysis took 10 seconds. The screen filled with red flags. Arrows pointed to the exact fraudulent wire transfers. It highlighted the names of the executives involved. It even cross-referenced their public social media posts, showing them on a yacht that had been purchased with the stolen funds. The boardroom was dead silent. The lead negotiator just stared, then slowly took off her glasses. "My God," she whispered. The next call was about the price. They opened with an offer of $6 million. I said no. They looked stunned. I don't think anyone had ever said no to them before. "My algorithm is flawless," I said. "It's not just another tool. It will become the new industry standard. It will make your current software suite obsolete." "What do you want, Ms. Bishop?" the negotiator asked. $8.5 million, I said, "and a 10% royalty on all future contracts that utilize the Veritas engine." They tried to haggle. I didn't budge. "That's my price," I stated. "This tool is worth 10 times that amount. You know it, and I know it." 2 days later, they agreed. The deal was officially signed one day before the engagement dinner. The money was in escrow, and I was sitting at that table, a 28-year-old multimillionaire, listening to Chloe Sterling call me a boring accountant with a spreadsheet hobby. The irony was so potent it almost made me laugh out loud. I wasn't planning on revealing anything. My plan was to wait until the merger was public, get my own place in the city, and then send my family a polite, informational email. But Chloe pushed me. She pushed the boring one, and she found out what I was really made of. The drive home was silent and agonizing, but the real assault began the moment I closed my bedroom door. My phone lit up, buzzing insistently against the wood of my nightstand. It was my mother. "Mom. Amelia, I am profoundly disappointed in you. You completely ruined your brother's special night." I just stared at the text. Ruined his night? My phone buzzed again. "Mom, Chloe is in tears. Her parents were mortified. You made such a scene. It was selfish and cruel." I felt a cold, hollow feeling spread through my stomach. Selfish? "Mom, you need to call Chloe and apologize immediately. and your brother." I didn't reply. I couldn't. What could I possibly say? Sorry your fiancé is a malicious bully. Sorry I'm not a failure. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Leo. Leo, WTF was that? Leo, are you happy now? You made me and Chloe look like complete idiots. Leo, you've always been jealous. It's pathetic. Jealous. The word struck me like a physical blow. I wasn't jealous, I was tired, I was angry, but I had never, not once, been jealous of Leo. I didn't want his life. I didn't want his superficial job or the flashy car that our parents had helped him buy. I typed out a reply. Me. She insulted me, Leo. She called my company a hobby, and everyone laughed. The 3 dots appeared instantly. He was typing back furiously. Leo. It was a joke. God, you can't take anything. You're so damn sensitive. Leo. And by the way, Chloe's firm was planning to buy your little company. You probably just destroyed the whole deal. Nice work. You're so smart. My blood ran cold. Chloe's firm was planning to buy your little company. How did he know that? How did she know that? Veritas wasn't public. The name was known to almost no one. Before I could process it, another text came in. My father. Dad, call me in the morning. We need to discuss how to manage this. You've created a very awkward situation with Chloe's family. They are very important people. An awkward situation, not congratulations, Amelia, not $8.5 million. How did you do it? I felt a void open up in my chest. I scrolled through the messages again. Disappointed, selfish, cruel, pathetic, jealous, awkward situation. These were the words my own family chose for me. I put my phone down and sat on my bed. The silence of the house felt deafening. My family wasn't proud. They were furious, and then I understood the truth. They didn't care if I was successful. They cared if I was disruptive. My entire life, I had been the quiet, stable one, the family's emotional shock absorber, the one who listened to their problems but never asked for anything in return. I was the one they could point to and say, "At least we don't have to worry about Amelia. She's so simple." And that night, I had informed them that I wasn't simple. I had told them I was rich. I had told them I was smart. I had told them I was powerful. I had broken the family script. I had walked out from the painted backdrop, stepped to the front of the stage, taken the microphone, and told the star of the show to take a seat. They didn't see a daughter or a sister. They saw a supporting character who had suddenly demanded to be the lead. They were angry that I had stopped playing my part. My phone buzzed one last time. It was Chloe. Chloe, I don't know who you think you are. Chloe, you're just a jealous, bitter little accountant. You always have been. Chloe, you can play with your little numbers all you want. You'll always be the sad little sister who lives with her parents. Chloe, good luck with your company. You'll need it. I read the text, then I read it again. It was dripping with pure venom, so much rage. This was more than just a passing insult at a dinner party. This was deeply personal. I stood up and walked to my desk, looking at my dark, sleeping computer monitors. They were quiet, like me. I thought about what Leo had said. Chloe's firm was planning to buy your little company. And Chloe's text. Good luck with your company. How did she know the name Veritas? I had been meticulously careful. The only people who knew the real name were the executives at the conglomerate, and they were bound by a rock-solid NDA. I tried calling my mom. I just wanted to hear a human voice. I wanted her to be a mother for a minute. She picked up on the 3rd ring. What? Her voice was sharp as glass. Mom, I said, it's not like that. She attacked me. She insulted my work. Amelia, I don't have time for this drama, she cut me off, her voice pure ice. Your brother is distraught. His engagement dinner is ruined, all because you couldn't just be pleasant for one evening. Fix it. Apologize to Chloe. Click. She hung up on me. I sat there in the dark. I was the one who had been insulted, laughed at, and victimized. And I was the one who was expected to apologize. I looked at Chloe's text again. You'll always be the sad little sister. A new feeling began to crystallize in my chest. It was cold and hard. It wasn't sadness, and it wasn't just anger, it was focus. Chloe had made a critical error. My family had made a critical error. They all thought I was just the backdrop. They thought I was a boring accountant. They had forgotten what I actually do for a living. I find lies. I uncover hidden crimes, and I never, ever lose. The week following the dinner was a week of unbearable silence. A cold war waged in the hallways, and over meals I now ate alone. I'd come downstairs for a glass of water, and my mother would suddenly become intensely focused on scrubbing the sink, her back turned to me. My father would just rustle his newspaper, turning a page loudly. It was so much worse than yelling. The silence was a form of punishment, designed to make me feel small, to make me break. They wanted me to come to them, crying and beg for forgiveness. I refused. I worked. I stayed in my room, on the phone all day with my new legal team, finalizing the merger. The conglomerate was moving quickly. The money was being wired. The press release was being drafted. Inside my room, I was Ms. Bishop, the founder of Veritas, a multi-millionaire tech innovator. The moment I walked down the hall to the bathroom, I was Amelia, the family pariah. It was a bizarre, fractured existence. My mother made one last attempt to force a return to the status quo. On Sunday, she knocked on my door. Family dinner, she said, her eyes fixed on the wall behind me. Be downstairs at 6 and try to be pleasant. It was a command, not an invitation. I went downstairs. Leo and Chloe were there. My stomach clenched. They were all in the living room, drinking wine and laughing. As soon as I entered, the laughter died, exactly like at the dinner. Amelia, my father said, giving me a curt nod as if I were a junior employee he barely knew. Hi, I said. Chloe offered me a tight, artificial smile. It was a smile that screamed, I win. Amelia, dear, my mother said. Chloe was just telling us about the wedding flowers. They're importing peonies from Holland. That's nice, I said, taking a seat on the chair furthest from them. They resumed their conversation, carefully talking around me. They discussed the guest list, the honeymoon plans. It was all a performance, a show designed to demonstrate that the family narrative was back on script. They were showing me that I held no power here. Chloe looked over at me, swirling the wine in her glass. We're inviting so many of my colleagues from the firm, she said, her voice intentionally loud. It's just wonderful to be surrounded by people who truly understand the business world, you know? Ambitious people, people who actually do things. The jab was unmistakable, aimed directly at me. Leo wrapped his arm around her. That's my girl, the most powerful woman I know. I just watched them. I said nothing. I just observed. My silence was becoming a problem for them. I wasn't fighting, I wasn't crying, I wasn't apologizing. I was just observing. I was an auditor in my own home, and it was clearly making them nervous. Dinner was a tense affair. I ate my food in silence. As I was getting up to leave, my mother said, "Oh, Amelia, the formal invitations are going out this week. Make sure you RSVP." Another command. The invitation arrived 3 days later. I found it in the mailbox. A thick, heavy envelope. Cream-colored, expensive cardstock. My name was written in perfect looping calligraphy. Ms. Amelia Bishop. I opened it. The card inside was even thicker. the letters raised and embossed in gold leaf. You are cordially invited to the engagement party of Chloe Sterling and Leo Bishop, Saturday, the 12th of October, 7 o'clock in the evening, the Willow Creek Country Club. Black tie. I held the card in my hand. I understood precisely what this was. This was not an invitation. It was a summons, a test of my loyalty. They were daring me to decline. They expected me to show up, wearing a nice dress, carrying a nice gift, and smiling for the cameras. They expected me to stand in the back, behind Leo and Chloe, behind my parents. They expected me to become the backdrop once more. This invitation was their way of declaring the game over. You had your little tantrum. Now you will fall back in line. You will get back in your box. You will be boring Amelia again. They thought the dinner was a one-time outburst. They thought I was just a sensitive girl who had a bad night. They still had no idea who I really was. They had forgotten that I am a forensic accountant. I stood there by the mailbox, thinking about Leo's text. Chloe's firm was planning to buy your little company. I thought about Chloe's sneer. We are, for pennies. A cold, clear thought cut through all the family drama. It wasn't just an insult, it was information. How did Chloe know the name Veritas? It wasn't public. I had only shared it with the conglomerate's legal team. I had kept it a secret from everyone else. How did her firm know about it? And why did she believe they could acquire it for pennies? A new feeling settled over me. It wasn't sadness or anger, it was professional curiosity. Chloe thought she was playing a social game of status and appearances. She was wrong. This was business. And she had just shown me her entire hand. I walked back inside and placed the elegant embossed invitation on my desk, right next to my keyboard. I sat down and opened my laptop. I wasn't thinking about the party or what dress I would wear. I was thinking about server logs. I was going to do what I do best. I was going to run an audit. On Chloe, I stared at the invitation. You are cordially invited. The gold lettering seemed to mock me. It was a summons, a demand. Come back, Amelia. Be quiet, Amelia. Be the backdrop. I looked from the invitation to my laptop. My family's world was cream-colored paper, fancy parties, and appearances. My world was data. My world was code. My world was the truth. I put the invitation down next to my keyboard and sat down, my chair squeaking in the quiet room. I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. It wasn't the insults, my mother's coldness, or Leo's anger. It was a business problem. How did Chloe know the name Veritas? I had been so careful, operating under a code name Project 88 for months. When I filed the LLC, I used a registered agent service in Delaware. My name was nowhere on the public documents. The only people who knew the real name, Veritas, were the executives at the conglomerate I was merging with, and they were under a very strict, very expensive non-disclosure agreement. They would not have leaked it. So how did she know? And how did she know her firm was trying to acquire it? And why did she say for pennies? My heart began to beat a little faster. This wasn't a family problem anymore. This was a security breach. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow illuminating my face in the dim room. My family thought I was a boring accountant who just added up numbers. They had no idea what a forensic accountant really does. A normal accountant works with the numbers you give them. A forensic accountant finds the numbers you're hiding. We are digital bloodhounds. We follow the scent of a lie. I didn't start with Veritas's code. I started with the public-facing demo site. It was a simple website with a contact form and a link to request a limited demonstration, designed to attract potential clients like the conglomerate. I opened my server's administration panel and pulled up the access logs. A server log is like a digital guest book for a website. It records every single visitor, their IP address, the time they visited, and what pages they looked at. Most of it was just normal traffic and search engine bots. I filtered the logs, searching the past 2 months for any visitor who had spent an unusually long time on the site, and then I found it. A single IP address. It had visited my site 47 times in the last 3 weeks. This wasn't a prospective client. This was research. I copied the IP address and pasted it into a public lookup tool. I hit enter. My blood ran cold. The IP address was registered to Sterling Grant Capital, San Francisco, California, Chloe's firm. My hand was shaking just slightly. They weren't just looking. 47 visits. I went back to the logs and examined the activity type. My breath caught in my throat. They weren't just browsing the Contact Us page. They were running scans. They were running directory traversal attempts. In plain English, they were trying to jiggle the handles of locked doors. They were looking for a way in. They were trying to hack me. I felt a wave of dizziness. I stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the quiet, dark street. My brother's fiancé, her company, they were actively trying to breach my system. Why? We are, Chloe had said at dinner, laughing, for pennies. That wasn't a plan to buy it. It was a lie. They weren't trying to buy it. They were trying to steal it. I sat back down, my focus now razor sharp. The family drama, the hurt feelings, the insults, all of it faded into background noise. This was real. This was a crime. Did they get in? I wondered. Did they get my code? My core code, the AI algorithm itself, was not on that server. It was on a separate air-gapped system, completely offline. I was paranoid, but I was smart. They couldn't have stolen the main algorithm. So, what were they trying to do? They were trying to get to the demo. The demo was a very limited version of Veritas. It worked on a small dataset, but it was a fraction of the full program's power. But I remembered something. 6 months ago, worried that a competitor might try to reverse engineer my demo, I had built a trap. I called it my canary trap, named after the canaries miners used to take into coal mines. If the birds stopped singing, they knew the air was toxic. My trap was a specific, useless piece of code hidden deep inside the demo's file structure. It was designed to look valuable. The file was named algorithm_core.py. It was bait. The code inside was junk, thousands of lines of jumbled, nonsensical math. But it had one other function. If anyone ever accessed that file, downloaded it, or even just opened it, it was programmed to do 2 things. First, it would send a silent alert to my private email. I checked my inbox. No alert. Damn, did the trap fail? But wait, what was the second function? Right, it was also programmed to trigger a 5-minute screen and audio recording from the computer that accessed the file, then save that recording to a hidden encrypted folder on my own server. It was a long shot, a Hail Mary. I went back to my server's file system and navigated to the hidden directory. My hands were sweating as I typed in the password. The folder opened. It was empty. My heart sank. For a moment I felt defeated. They were smart. They hadn't fallen for it. Wait, I changed the settings. Show hidden files. One file appeared. Cache.tmp. It was 450 megabytes. It was a video file. They had taken the bait. They had opened the file. The trap had worked. I stared at the file name, my finger hovering over the mouse. I was about to see who was on the other side. I was about to find out exactly what was going on. All the feelings came rushing back: the humiliation at the dinner table, my mother's cold voice, Leo's furious texts. They thought I was a joke, a little accountant. I took a deep breath, my face calm, my mind clear. I was not a victim. I was a professional, and I was about to review the evidence. I clicked the file. The video file opened. For a few seconds, the screen was black. My canary trap code had a 10-second delay. I heard muffled sounds, papers shuffling, a chair rolling. Then the screen recording flickered to life. I was looking at a computer desktop, a Mac with a generic blue wave wallpaper. My fake code, algorithm_core, Pi, was open in a text editor. Someone was scrolling through it. And then I heard her voice, clear as a bell. "This is it," Chloe said. The webcam feed appeared in the top right corner. It was a small, grainy image, but it was unmistakably her. She was in a sleek conference room, all glass and brushed steel. 2 men in suits were with her. I didn't recognize them. Chloe wasn't wearing her country club attire. She was in a sharp black blazer, her hair pulled back tightly. This wasn't Leo's fiancée. This was Chloe Sterling, venture capitalist. She looked powerful and arrogant. "Is this the algorithm?" one of the men asked, his tone skeptical. "This is what our tech guy pulled from her demo site last night," Chloe said, a smirk playing on her lips, that same awful smirk from the dinner. "It looks like junk," the second man said. "It's just a bunch of random mathematical functions." "It's encrypted," Chloe said, a note of annoyance in her voice. "Obviously, she's not that stupid. This is the core. Get our team in Mumbai to crack it. I want a clone of her platform ready for our Q3 pitch." The first man leaned forward. "Chloe, the partners are not comfortable with this. Intellectual property theft. This is a huge risk. Why don't we just buy it? The girl is living at home with her parents. We can offer her $500,000. She'll take it." I stopped breathing. $500,000. They thought my life's work was worth $500,000. Chloe laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. "Buy it? Why would we buy it? Her brother is an idiot, and the whole family is clueless. They think she's just some hobbyist accountant." She leaned in close to her webcam, her face filling the small frame, as if she were looking right at me. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "Forget buying it. Just crack the algorithm and clone it. We'll call it Auditron or some other stupid corporate name. By the time we launch, we'll bury her. That little accountant will never know what hit her. That little accountant." The video ended. The 5 minutes were up. My screen went black. I sat in the utter silence of my bedroom. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was cold. It was a feeling I had only experienced a few times in my life, a feeling of absolute freezing certainty. She hadn't just insulted me at dinner. She was actively, professionally, and criminally trying to destroy my life. She was trying to steal my company, my future, and my family. They were her unwitting accomplices. Their mockery and dismissal of me was the very reason Chloe thought she could get away with it. "The whole family is clueless," she'd said. She was right about them. She was dead wrong about me. I played the recording again, listening to her words. Crack the algorithm. Clone it. That little accountant will never know what hit her. I saved a copy of the video file. Then I saved another copy to a secure, encrypted flash drive, which I put in my wallet. I got up and went to the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes wide. I saw the boring one, the quiet one, the victim they all wanted me to be. "That little accountant," I whispered to my reflection. This was the moment of decision. I could take this recording to the conglomerate. Their army of lawyers would obliterate Chloe's firm. It would be quiet, professional, and clean, but it wouldn't solve the other problem. It wouldn't solve my family. My mother would still be disappointed. My father would still be embarrassed. Leo would still think I was jealous. They would never see the truth. They would just think I was being difficult again. I walked back to my room and looked at the cream-colored invitation on my desk. The Willow Creek Country Club, black tie, 7 o'clock. All their friends would be there. All my father's important people. 150 witnesses. A new plan began to form in my mind. It was not a lawyer's plan. It was not a quiet, behind-the-scenes plan. It was a forensic accountant's plan. My job isn't just to find the truth. It's to present it. It's to take thousands of pages of data, find the single critical lie, and present it to a boardroom in a way that no one can possibly deny. I wasn't going to send an email. I was going to make a presentation. I picked up my phone and went to the country club's website. I looked at their events page and found photos of the grand ballroom, and there it was. Mounted on the ceiling in the back of the room, a projector. I looked up the AV rental options they listed. They used a standard HDMI connection. I took the video file from my computer, converted it to a simple MP4, and saved it to my phone. I also saved a backup to my private cloud. I checked my phone accessories. I had an HDMI out adapter. I was ready. Chloe thought she was going to a party to celebrate her engagement to the golden boy. She thought she had successfully mocked the little accountant into silence. She was wrong. She was going to my boardroom. I was going to give the most important presentation of my life, and everyone was invited. The night of the party, the house was buzzing with a fake nervous energy. My mother was rushing around, her heels clicking frantically on the hardwood floors. "Amelia, are you ready? We're leaving in 5 minutes. I'm coming, Mom." I walked to the top of the stairs. I had bought a dress. It was simple, black, and floor length. Not flashy, but elegant. It felt like armor. My mother looked up at me, her face a mask of strained politeness. "Oh," she said, "you look nice." It was the first remotely kind thing she had said to me in weeks. It was because the performance was about to begin. "We had an audience tonight." "Thank you," I said. My father and Leo were waiting by the door, both in tuxedos. They looked like penguins, stiff, identical, and deeply uncomfortable. My father just grunted. Leo refused to even look in my direction. The drive to the country club was silent, the same heavy, oppressive silence from the night of the dinner. My family, wrapped in their bubble of denial. I just gazed out the window, my heart pounding. It wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. The same feeling I got right before running a final analysis. The feeling of knowing I was right and I was about to prove it. The Willow Creek Country Club was an absurd monument to new money. A massive white building with giant pillars trying to look like a minor presidential palace. Valets in red jackets scurried to open doors for shiny, expensive cars. We walked into a lobby of marble and gold, a loud chatter filling the air. A string quartet was playing in a corner, but their music was mostly lost in the noise. The ballroom was packed. I saw towers of champagne glasses and tables overflowing with Dutch peonies. This party must have cost a fortune. My father's important people were everywhere. Judges, local politicians, business owners, all smiling and laughing and performing. My mother grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. "Amelia," she whispered, her voice urgent and low, "please, just be nice tonight. For your brother. For me. Just smile. Don't make a scene." I looked at her. Her eyes were pleading. She wasn't asking as a mother. She was asking as a co-star. "Don't ruin the show." I gave her a small, calm smile. "I will, Mom," I said, and I meant it. I got a glass of water from a passing waiter, found a small, out-of-the-way table in the back of the room, and I waited. I watched the show unfold. Chloe was the star. glittering in a white sparkling dress. She glided through the room, her laugh loud and bright. Leo was by her side, holding her hand, his face glowing with a restored sense of pride. He was the golden boy again. My parents worked the room. "Oh yes, Chloe is just wonderful. He's so happy." No one spoke to me. I was the backdrop, the invisible one. I was exactly where they wanted me to be. I sat there for an hour, just watching. I watched Chloe kiss my father on the cheek. I watched my mother embrace her. I watched Leo spin her around on the dance floor. I watched the woman who was actively trying to destroy my life be celebrated as the new center of my family's universe. And the cold, hard certainty inside me settled into steel. Finally, the music softened. My father walked to the small stage at the front of the room and tapped the microphone, producing a screech of feedback that echoed through the hall. Everyone laughed. "Testing, testing," my father said, beaming. "Good evening, everyone. Eleanor and I are so thrilled, so proud to welcome you all here tonight to celebrate my son, Leo, and his incredible, brilliant fiancée, Chloe." The room burst into applause. My father launched into a long, boring speech about family and legacy and the next generation. It was all just words, empty and meaningless. Then Leo took the microphone. He talked about how Chloe was the smartest, most beautiful woman he had ever met. Chloe just smiled and blew him a kiss. The toasts concluded. The string quartet began to play again. My father said, "Now please, enjoy the champagne, enjoy the food." This was my cue. I stood up and began to walk from the back of the room. My heels clicked on the polished floor. Click, click, click. It was a small sound, but heads began to turn. My mother saw me, and her eyes widened in panic. My father saw me, and his smile froze. "Amelia," he said into the mic, "what are you doing?" I walked up the 3 steps to the stage and stood next to him. I was perfectly calm. I gently took the microphone from his hand. He was too stunned to resist. I turned to face the crowd. 150 faces stared back at me. The room fell silent. "Hi, everyone," I said. My voice didn't shake. It was clear and steady. I looked directly at Chloe, who was standing in the middle of the room holding a champagne flute. Her smile was gone. Her eyes narrowed. "Chloe," I said, "I just wanted to say, you were right." I could hear my mother gasp. "You were right about my job," I continued, my voice still light and conversational. "Being an accountant is boring. So boring. Especially when you have to review hours and hours of internal security footage." The room was filled with confused frowns. "But sometimes," I said, "you find something, a little detail, a pattern, a lie, and you have an obligation to show it to the board. You have to make a presentation." I reached into my small black clutch and pulled out my phone and a small white adapter. "Amelia, stop," my father hissed beside me. I ignored him. I walked to the side of the stage where the AV cart was set up. The projector was on, shining a slideshow of Leo and Chloe onto the huge screen above the stage. I unplugged their laptop's HDMI cable. The screen went black. I plugged the adapter into my phone and then plugged the HDMI cable into the adapter. "Amelia, I am warning you," my father whispered frantically. I held my phone in my hand and walked back to the center of the stage. I looked at Chloe. "This is a presentation for my new partners," I said, "but I thought you should all see it too." I pressed play. The black screen flickered, and the video file opened. The grainy image of the conference room filled the giant screen, and Chloe's voice, her real voice, filled the silent ballroom. "Get our team in Mumbai to crack it. I want a clone of her platform ready for our Q3 pitch." The entire room froze. Someone dropped a glass and it shattered on the floor. The string quartet stopped playing. I saw Chloe's face. Her expensive tan had vanished. She was as white as a ghost. Her champagne glass tilted, spilling its contents onto her white dress. Leo looked from the screen to Chloe and back to the screen, his expression one of complete, dawning horror. My mother had both hands covering her mouth. The recording continued, the man's voice clear and loud. "Chloe, the partners are not comfortable with this. Intellectual property theft. This is a huge risk." And then, the final line. Chloe's face, 10 feet high on the screen, sneering. Her voice, echoing off the high ceilings. "Forget buying it. Just crack the algorithm and clone it. We'll call it Autotron or some other stupid corporate name. By the time we launch, we'll bury her. That little accountant will never know what hit her." The video ended. The screen went black again. The silence in the room was absolute. A dead, perfect silence. I stood there for a beat, letting the silence hang in the air, letting them all see. This was the truth. This was my data. No one was laughing now. I stood on the stage, in the silence, and looked out at the 150 important people. They were just staring, frozen, their masks of country club politeness shattered. I looked at my family. My father's face was ashen. My mother looked like she was about to collapse. Leo was just staring at Chloe, his face a canvas of confusion and disgust. And Chloe? She was still standing paralyzed in the middle of the room, her white dress now stained with champagne. I lifted the microphone again, my hand perfectly steady. "That," I said, my voice calm and clear, "is called intellectual property theft. It's a felony, and you just confessed to it in front of 150 witnesses." I let that sink in. "Oh," I added, as if it were an afterthought, "and Veritas isn't being sold. Not for pennies, anyway." I turned my gaze to the stunned crowd. It's merging with the parent company of Sterling Grant Capital, the conglomerate that owns Chloe's firm. I heard a few gasps. I saw a man in the front row, a prominent lawyer I recognized, nod his head slowly. He understood. "My new role begins on Monday," I said. "I'll be the new global head of compliance. I'll be overseeing all internal audits and—" I paused, looking directly at Chloe. "Which means, Chloe, that as of Monday morning, I'm your boss's boss." I said the last part quietly, but the microphone carried my voice to every corner of that silent room. I looked at her, the brilliant fiancée, the powerful woman. She just looked small, pathetic. I placed the microphone carefully back on its stand, making sure it didn't make a sound. Then I turned and walked down the 3 steps. I started to walk out of the ballroom. It was the longest walk of my life. I walked past the champagne tower. I walked past the peonies. I walked past Leo. He didn't look at me. He just kept staring at Chloe, his mouth hanging open. I walked past my parents. My father reached out and tried to grab my arm. "Amelia," he said, his voice a broken whisper. I pulled my arm away without looking at him and just kept walking. I walked out of the ballroom, through the marble lobby, and pushed open the big, heavy front doors. The cold night air hit my face. It felt clean. It felt real. I handed the valet my ticket. I didn't have a flashy car, just my practical, boring sedan. I got in, started the engine, and drove away from the country club. I didn't look back. I didn't see the party implode, the guests whispering and leaving in droves. I didn't see my father trying to do damage control. I didn't see my mother crying in the bathroom. I didn't see Leo and Chloe have their first and last real fight. But I knew it all happened. My phone started ringing before I was even halfway home. It was my mom. I looked at the screen and silenced the call. It rang again. My father. I silenced it. It rang again. Leo. I silenced it. By the time I got home, I had 14 missed calls. I went up to my room, took off the black dress, and put on my pajamas. I sat at my desk and opened my personal laptop. I sent an email to the CEO of the conglomerate, the woman I had negotiated with. Subject: urgent, internal security matter, Sterling Grant Capital. Body: Dear Ms. Alvarez, I have discovered an active attempt by employees at Sterling Grant Capital to steal the Veritas source code. I have irrefutable video and audio evidence. I have also made this evidence public. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss. Sincerely, Amelia Bishop. She called me 60 seconds later. It was 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. Ms. Bishop, she said, her voice sharp as ice, tell me everything. So I did. The aftermath was swift and brutal. On Monday morning, Chloe Sterling was fired for cause and escorted out of the building by security. The two men in the video were also fired. The conglomerate's legal team sent Chloe a cease and desist letter so terrifying it effectively blacklisted her from the finance industry for life. Her important family was suddenly very, very quiet. Leo's engagement ended. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it from my mother, who was pounding on my locked bedroom door. Amelia, please, you've ruined him. His life is over. This is your fault. I just sat at my desk, coding. Leo, the golden boy, had lost his shine. His brilliant fiancée was a disgraced criminal. All his friends, all my father's friends, they all knew. The performance was over, the show was canceled, and I, the boring one, had written the final scene. The week after the party was the loudest week of my life. My phone never stopped ringing. I didn't answer. I kept my bedroom door locked. The pounding was constant. Amelia, open this door. My father's voice, not asking, commanding. I ignored him. Amelia, please, baby, please. My mother's voice, sobbing. You're tearing this family apart. What have you done to us? What will people say? I just put on my noise-canceling headphones. I listened to the voicemails once, at the end of each day. It was like an audit of my family's collapse. My mother's messages were a torrent of tears and pleading. How could you do this to your brother? You've ruined us. The humiliation. We can't even go to the club. Everyone is talking. My father's messages were all angry strategy. This is not how we handle things, Amelia. You made a public spectacle. You need to come downstairs. We need to fix this. We need a plan. He was still trying to direct the narrative, still convinced this was just a show. Leo's messages were pure, incoherent rage, just screaming. I hate you. You ruined my life. You were always jealous of me. You're a cold, pathetic, I hate you. Chloe's messages were the most interesting. First came the threats. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, you little bitch. This is defamation. Then, after her lawyers had clearly reviewed the evidence, the tone shifted to desperation. Amelia, please. We can talk about this. Don't do this. You'll ruin my career. I'll give you anything. Please just call me. I deleted them all. I blocked their numbers. My mother, my father, my brother, Chloe, one by one. Block, 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 block. Chloe's threats were empty. The conglomerate's legal team was a brick wall. They informed her that if she ever contacted me again, they would pursue criminal charges for the intellectual property theft. She went silent. The pounding on my door finally stopped. The house grew quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. It wasn't the silence of denial. It was the silence of a tomb. I packed my bags. 2 suitcases, my laptops, my hard drives. The merger was finalized. The contracts were all signed. My new title was real. My new salary was real. The $8.5 million from the initial deal was sitting in my bank account. I looked at the number. It didn't feel real. I bought a plane ticket. One way. The night before I left, I went downstairs. My parents were in the living room sitting in the dark. The TV was off. They looked older, smaller. They saw me standing in the doorway. "Amelia?" my mother whispered. "I'm leaving," I said quietly. "What? What do you mean?" my father asked, standing up. "I'm moving," I said. "My bags are by the door. A car is picking me up in an hour to take me to the airport." "You can't just leave," my mother said, her voice cracking as she started to cry. "You're our daughter." "I was your backdrop," I stated, my voice devoid of anger. "It was just a fact." "We didn't mean it, Amelia," my father said. "You know we love you. We are proud of you." Proud. That word, the one I had longed to hear my entire life. And now, when it finally came, it meant nothing. It was just another line, another attempt to fix the scene. "No, you're not," I said, my voice still quiet. "You're not proud. You're terrified. You're embarrassed. And you're angry that I stopped playing my part." I looked at them, the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. "Goodbye," I said. I turned and walked out the front door, not waiting for a reply. I moved to Lisbon, Portugal. I didn't tell them where I was going. I got a beautiful little apartment with a view of the Tagus River. I can hear the trams rattling by in the morning. I can work from anywhere. My new job is about compliance. It's about data. It's about finding the truth. I am very, very good at my job. For the first month, I just healed. I bought fresh pastries from the local pastellaria. I drank coffee in sunny plazas. I walked through ancient monasteries and stared at art that was centuries old. I was surrounded by real beauty, not the fake, flashy performance of the country club. I didn't speak to my family for 6 months. My new life is quiet. Tonight, I'm sitting on my small balcony as the sun sets over the river. I just closed my laptop. The $8.5 million deal is ancient history. My royalty checks arrive every quarter. I am safe. I am successful. I am free. I took a sip of wine and closed my eyes, and for the first time in my entire life, I truly, finally, slept through the night. Sometimes silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's the sound of peace, like subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because sometimes the quiet one gets to write the final audit.